Hello, everybody. I think we can start now. So welcome, everyone, to today's webinar. I'm Cristina Lumbreras from EENA. We are delighted to have you all with us today. We are honored to welcome Gilles Carabin from the European Commission, DG Move, and Elitsa Stoyanova from DG Grow. They will share their expert insights on the recent eCall delegated regulations. And after their talks, we will have a Q&A session. Please use the chat to ask your questions. I also want to mention that the recording and the slides will be made available on our website. And well, let's now turn our attention to our speakers. Gilles, Elitsa, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Christina. I think I will start. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gilles Carabin. I'm working for DG Mobility and Transport in a unit dealing with sustainable and intelligent transport. And we are dealing with the infrastructure part of eCall, the so-called public safety answering point. As Christina said, I'm here with my colleague Elitsa, who will intervene on several aspects in this presentation. I will start with a few slides. I will not bother you too long with generalities about eCall because I suspect that you are all experts. So let's start with next slide with just this picture that I have stolen from a previous EU-funded project, which was called HERO, where you see the different segments when it comes to eCall, the vehicle, of course, which is the origin of the eCalls when, unfortunately, it has a serious accident. You have the communication networks. Currently, the eCall is using the circuit switch 2G, 3G telecommunication networks, and you have the infrastructure with these 112 PSAPs, public safety answering points. And of course, you have also useful information which help locate the accident, the GNSS, in particular Galileo networks from infrastructure. And of course, but this we don't regulate, all the emergency services, whether it's police or fire brigade or ambulance, etc., and the hospitals at the end of the chain. Voilà, just to recall also, please, next slide, that eCall is a post-crash service, and it's an post-crash care is an integral part of the EU policy road safety policy framework, which is governed by the safe system approach, along with safe vehicles, safe road use, also safe speeds, and safe road infrastructure. That's a part of this puzzle. And it's only post-crash care services that we regulate for the moment. So next slide, please. Just to remind also the policy, we call the policy context and scope. eCall is started probably 25 years ago, but it was integrated in EU law only 2010 in the ITS directive as a priority action of the ITS directive. And this led in 2013 to a first specification, EU specification under the ITS directive to specify the way the eCalls needed to be received and handled by the public safety answering point. Of course, we have other aspects which need to be taken into account. Next slide, please. When looking at EU legislation, because we started with specification, and afterwards, a few years later, we adopted this decision. It's a decision from the Parliament and of the Council to deploy the PSAP infrastructure. So with this requirement that member states shall deploy the PSAP infrastructure no later than 1st of October 2017. And they need to ensure that eCall can be originated and handled from anywhere in their territory, as long as you have connectivity, as you have this mobile communication network available. That's an important aspect that we need to recall as well. Next slide, please. Talking about telecommunication networks, we have this European Electronic Communication Code, which was adopted in 2018, which regulates also emergency communications, which are, and eCall is an emergency communication, which can be triggered on behalf of a person by an in-vehicle emergency call or as an eCall. And we have also under that directive delegated regulation, which is looking also at the upgrade of the national PSAP systems to be able to receive also new communication for 4G, 5G, 6G, which are called packet switch technology. That's a bit the context when it comes to telecommunication networks. Next slide, please. I'll now give the floor to Elitza because this is her business.
Thank you very much, Gilles, and good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today and to share with you our common work with Gilles and DigiMove. So my name is Elitza Stoyanova, and I'm working for DigiGrow for the mobility unit. We are responsible for setting up the rules for the approval of vehicles and the vehicle systems, parts, and equipment. And on this slide, we put the three legal acts which regulate on our side the eCall, the use of eCall in the vehicles. So we have the regulation 2015-758, which mandates from 31st of March 2018 all new models of passenger cars and vans. And it's important to know that we are talking only about those types of vehicles and not yet about buses, trucks, or any other vehicle category. It is also important to note that the regulation itself is based and refers to European standards, which are using the circuit switched electronic communication network. And I'll come back to this issue again, but just to complete the other two acts, which we are also responsible for, are the Delegated Regulation 2017/79, which in fact contains all the technical requirements and the tests to test the vehicle and the eCall in-vehicle system. And in implementing Regulation 2017/78, we have the administrative procedure for the approval. So all the templates of the documents that need to be ensured in the procedure, and then also the type approval certificate that needs to be issued afterwards. And in the next slide, I have also tried to mention the smart and sustainable mobility strategy that the Commission has adopted some time ago in December 2020. But it's very important because in order to ensure that the EU transport sector is fit for a clean and digital and modern economy, a set of actions have been included as an annex to this smart sustainable mobility strategy. And in fact, in Action 75, we have the eCall there, which requires to adapt the eCall legal framework to the new telecommunication technologies and to consider the extension possibly to also other vehicle categories. And in fact, this is in the context that we are facing very fast transition from 2G, 3G technologies into the next generation 4G and 5G technologies. And there are plans of the member states, in fact, starting from 2025 until 2030 to completely switch off those networks. So in this context, it is really important and it was urgent to adapt the eCall specifications on the two sides, the infrastructure from DG Move, as well as the vehicle side from us in DG Grow, in order to make it fit, the infrastructure and the vehicle, to make them fit to work with the newest packet switched communication networks that are coming very fastly into play. And now I turn back to Gilles, and I'll continue later.
Thank you, Elitsa. So next slide, please. So let's jump into the, let's say, the heart of our discussion today, which is focused on the update of the specifications for both PSAPs and vehicles, but you have understood that I will speak for PSAPs and Elitsa will speak for vehicles. So the principle that was adopted to update the specifications for PSAPs was that we need to do it rather quickly. We needed also to limit the update to what is really necessary, to not lose time on discussions on other topics. So the limited update focused on first the standards. So we have a new standard for circuit switch communication, but we need also to update some other standards with core standards for eCall. Since 2013 also things have changed when it comes to legislation. So I mentioned already the ECC, so the European Electronic Communication Code, but also, for instance, when it comes to privacy and data protection with the GDPR. And that's why we limited this update to some amendments to existing articles with accompanying recitals, this introductory part where we explain why we are doing these amendments. So in fact, at the end of the day, with this amendment, you will need to read the new specification, the addition of the current legislation, current specification with the amendments together. Voilà. So what did we do in terms of updates? Next slide, please. We updated first the standards, the core standards updates, which the core standards which are independent from the technology, from the type of communication networks. So there has been an important update for the data, for this minimum set of data standards, with the requirement to have now the 3 last locations mandatory. Until now, we had only the location of the accident, which was mandatory, the position of the accident, and the 2 most recent locations were only optional. But of course, this is very interesting to have the 3 last one because it gives you also the direction. And this sometimes, direction is also data, one part of the MSD, of this minimum set of data. But apparently, due to the accident where, the vehicle can be completely, the position of the vehicle can be completely different from the position, from his direction before the accident. That's why it was considered that it was useful to have this additional requirement when it comes to this 3 most recent location. So the location of the accident plus the 2 previous ones. And also the standard which was updated, which is updated, includes now all these vehicle categories that could come one day also mandatory. On this, we can talk a bit about that later if you want. Also, there were some changes to the core standard on operating requirements. There has been all the technology-related aspects have been moved, and also there were some error corrections. And what we did also is that now we have a version of 2022. We said also in the new legislation that if in the vehicle type approval, in the vehicle specification, for instance, we use one day the version 2024 or 26 of this standard, we don't need to update the PSAP specification. This will be automatically applicable as well for the PSAPs. Noting also that usually when you have updates of the vehicle specification, you have also a certain time of lead time. So it will certainly not become applicable from one day to the other. But PSAP will also have some time to update their procedures, their processes. Well, these are for the core standards, core eCall standards. For the next slide, please. There has been also some updates for the circuit switched standards. So for the high-level application protocol standard with a new 2023 version, which was updated for consistency with the core standard 16072, and also the same update for consistency for the standard for end-to-end conformance testing, for the part of this standard related to PSAPs. And all this, these standards remain applicable in PSAPs, and the PSAPs are required to still support 2G, 3G based eCalls as long as these circuit switch communication networks are in operation on the territory of the member state. So if you still have one 2G network or one 3G network in operation in your country, your PSAP will need to be able to receive and handle the eCalls which are transmitted through these communication networks. Regarding the new communication technologies, so next slide, please. We have these new standards, these packet switch standards, which correspond currently to 4G, 5G, 6G in the future. And we have this new technical specification from CEN on high-level application protocol and also end-to-end conformance testing. And here we have version 2022 for HLAP and an old version of 2018 for end-to-end conformance testing. We know that there will be updates more or less soon, let's say, and we apply the same principle that if in the type approval regulation we have a new version, this version will also become applicable in PSAP. So we don't need to spend time, energy on just for a revision of version of the standard. And next slide, please. I'm not far from the end, I think. No, there's still some information related to updated reference to legislation. As said earlier, we have the GDPR now that I think everyone knows, and we updated the reference in order to include the reference to the GDPR on privacy and data protection and also on liability. And this had an impact also on the requirement for the retention period. And what is new now is that the eCall operator, the PSAP, sorry, needs to retain the information received by the eCall operator, so the MSD, the row, and MSD content presented to the operator must be retained for a determined period of time in accordance with national regulation. This is nothing new. I think we had more or less something like that before. But what is new is that in the absence of national regulation, it can be retained for longer than for 10 years. Which means that if you have a national regulation, which is 15 years, it's okay. But if you have no national regulation, you cannot keep this data more than 10 years. If you have a national regulation for 5 years, it's 5 years. No. So the priority is to the national regulation, but if there is no national regulation, it cannot be retained for longer than for 10 years. We have some recitals, of course, which have been added to explain a bit why we did that reference to the GDPR, and also why the free vehicle location are needed, because these are considered also as personal data, the location of the vehicle, because you can always find at least the owner of the vehicle through the VIN number of the vehicle. We did also an update to include the reference to ECC, and also we've updated 5 data definition and and related recitals to align this data definition to the definition of the EECC as much as possible. What we did also is to update Article 5, because until now the specification, as they were adopted before the decision to deploy, it was left to the freedom of member states to deploy. Now we have the decision since 2015 and the requirement to deploy in October 2017. Then we couldn't keep that provision, so we needed to update this article to reflect the obligation to deploy the infrastructure. It's a bit technical, it has no real impact because normally a piece of infrastructure is now in place since several years. Voila, and I think that's almost my last slide. Next slide, please. I still have now 2 slides. One on reporting. Member states shall report by 1st of April 26 on the state of implementation of this regulation, with some information on competent authorities, etc., etc. Next slide, please. And just information about the deadline, the timeline of this amendment. So it was adopted on 6th of February. I think if you click on this link, you will get the text. And so the requirement is that from 1st of January 2026, the PSAP shall be able to receive and handle the packet switch equals, while keeping the possibility, the ability to receive and handle circuit switched equals, as long as you have one 2G or one 3G network in operation on the territory of the said member state. Voilà, that's the state of the play for the moment. We have still a few weeks to wait until we can publish this delegated regulation in the official journal, because the Parliament and the Council have 2 months to the right to object. If they ask, they can be given 2 additional months. For the moment, we haven't seen anything, so possibly it will become law on 6th of April. And afterwards, a few days for publication in the official journal, and it will enter into force on 20 days after the publication. Voilà, that's. I hope I was not too long, and now I think I can give the floor again to Elitsa for the vehicle specifications.
Thank you very much, Gilles. And I followed the same structure so that you are not confused. I will explain now briefly what were the parallel amendments done on the vehicle side. So we had to update, as I already mentioned, the regulation 2015/758, because the approval requirements for vehicles and systems are in fact based on European standards that are listed in Article 5, paragraph 8 of that regulation. In principle, the EU type approval rules are technology neutral, but in this particular case, unfortunately, we have a direct link with standards that are based on 2G and 3G networks. So until this provision is not amended, in fact, the new technology could not enter into the regulated 112-based ecosystem. And yeah, as I already briefly mentioned before, we already experienced the switch off, and already next year there would be some member states in which possibly the 2G and 3G will be switched off. So we had to urgently take some actions. On one side, to stop the bleeding and to stop the possibility of manufacturers to produce new types of vehicles with the so-called old ecosystem working on the 2G, 3G. Because this is directly linked and has an impact on the issue with the legacy fleet. So the fleet that has been registered, all these vehicles that have been registered after March 2018 with eCall systems, and they are threatened under the risk that after some years those systems will not be operational. So we have, according to the statistics available to us, we have approximately 40 million vehicles on the roads with this status by the end of last year, and increasing by 10 million each year. So we had to take very drastic measures and with very short deadlines to make the changes in the legislation. Now in the next slide, I will explain what two things we did. So similarly to what has been done for the PSAPs infrastructure, we are updating the circuit switch standards with the new versions, because the versions currently in the legislation have not been updated for quite some time. So in order to mirror also what is the development on the infrastructure side, we also needed to take this into account. And here the new versions will apply for the vehicle side already from the date into force of the Delegated Act. I already saw the one comment in the chat, and I hope that this makes clear that the new versions for the vehicles type, new types, will be already in place this year. On the next slide, I have also mentioned the new standards linked to the packet switch standards, and they will be replacing the respective circuit switch standards for on one side on the requirements and on the other on the testing. And this will happen from 1st of January 2026, which is aligned with the deadline that is also fixed into the PSAPs specifications. And next slide, please. And here we have similarly the information on the Delegated Act with which we are amending the eCall regulation. This Delegated Act was adopted on 14th of February this year. And similarly as the PSAPs Specifications Act is undergoing currently the 2-month scrutiny from Parliament and Council with a possibility for extension of another 2 months. But after that, once we have this period expired, the publication in the official journal will come, and 20 days after that, after the publication, the act will enter into force. And in particular, the two main important dates in this Delegated Act are the 1st of January 2026. This is the date from which all new vehicle models which are equipped with eCall in-vehicle systems must comply with the packet switched eCall standards. We have provided also a possibility for the manufacturers, those who are early in the stage and they are ready, they can already start their approval process, because it takes some time. It's not something that comes up overnight. To start already their process by submitting application already in the course of 2025. However, the vehicles that are that will be approved under those approvals, so we will be able to be registered only after the 1st of January 2026, and this is to make sure that the PSAPs are also ready for taking up those calls. We have also a second date, and this is a novelty, because the eCall regulation, the base one, does not contain any provisions with regard to existing vehicles. But in this case, all the vehicles that are produced under existing eco approvals, so the old eco approvals, they will need to undergo a kind of transformation and conversion process to be certified that they work also with the packet switched eco standards. And this is the biggest challenge to the industry. For that reason, we are now currently undergoing an exchange with industry, and we are going to make a revision of the delegated regulation 2017-79, which contains the technical requirements and test procedures. And of course, this delegated regulation has a lot of different aspects to be updated and to be taken into account. But the main focus of the first urgency in this regulation is to try to find a way for a simplified procedure for conversion of those existing eco approvals. And that was a commitment that we took when we were agreeing on the delegated act, taking into account these very challenging deadlines, in particular as regards to the existing eco type approvals. And with this, I think I come to the end of the presentation today. And I thank you for your attention. Here you have some additional links with additional information. And I'm ready to take your Q&As. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilles. Thank you, Elitsa. So the questions are done via the chat as it was explained at the beginning. We have already some questions.
Indeed, Christina, I think the first two questions from Thomas Reshka could be, maybe, Amy, if we could go back one slide, and then I'd put the questions to Elitsa. But the first question relates to when the regulation for the IVS side that was adopted on the 14th of February, when that will actually enter into force. And I know that you address it here. And I think the question was from Thomas was, after this period of for the Parliament and Council to object and publication in the journal, does this mean that the 4th of May 2024 is the date that the following eCall standards are required for approval of new vehicle types? And then there's a list there of standards. I don't know if you can see those in the chat, Elitsa.
Yes, I see the standards in the chat, and they were also on the same slide. I think 2 slides before that one, where I touched upon, here, this one. So these are the updates of the circuit switch standards. And I think that the versions that are mentioned in the chat are the same ones as we have put here. So those will enter into force presumably on the 4th of May. I do not have a crystal ball. I don't know whether the Parliament will not request another 2 months. But in the following months, we expect those to be enforceable in the EU legislation for the approval of new types. So we are talking only about new types of vehicles, systems, and components.
Okay, because that was the last part of the question. So after the 4th of May, if it happens to be that date, are the standards only relevant for new types of vehicles, but not for extensions of already approved vehicles and components?
So we can perhaps jump to the next question. There's also a question from Thomas, a second one. Also,
yes, Elisa addressed that on that last slide as well in relation to regulation EU 2017/.
Yes, just to confirm that indeed we are aware, because the question is whether we also have plans for all the other updates that are needed to be done in 2017/79, which are related to the circuit switched. Yes, indeed. Yeah, before the 1st of January 2026, where in fact the packet switch standards will kick in and start to apply. We need definitely to have the revision of 2017/79 to make it fit for the packet switch networks, and yeah, push mode is one of the things that are related only to the circuit switch based eCalls. So we have to revise that one. Yeah.
Okay. There's a third question from Thomas, but I think relating to the IDIADA. Oh no, this is the feedback that they provided in relation to some of those terms. Actually,
well, I see that there are a lot of questions also touching upon the third-party service eCall, and I would like to make it very clear here. We make a distinction between the 1.1 based eCall system and the third-party system. So what we regulate in the EU legislation is only the 1.1.2 based and not the third-party service eCall. We have some aspects that we test in relation to the 1.1.2 based ecosystem, like for instance, in vehicles where there are both systems in present, we need to make sure that if the TPS system is not working, then the 1.1.2 base eco will be working, and this is what is tested. But we do not test whether the TPS system is sending the MSD, whether it's full and so on. This is covered by the standard, and it has to be taken care of by the manufacturer when they are designing their systems. But in the EU legislation, we don't have this requirement to have vehicles equipped with a TPS. So basically the tests are aimed for the 1.1 based eCall. And maybe that's why the frustration that there were a lot of comments maybe previously given that were somehow felt not to have been taken care by the Commission, but in the delegated regulation, this is not in the scope of that regulation, so we could not have taken care of these things. And also there was a part with regard to third-party PSAP and the public safety answering point. This is not at all in the scope of our vehicle legislation.
And if I may, I can just add that this question is in the air since the beginning when we discussed the specification for PSAPs, and I was at that time, and I haven't seen any changes for the moment in the position of the member states where there was no agreement to include any specific requirement related to TPS equal in the PSAP legislation. At that time, and I assume it's still the case, some member states were not at all in favor of TPS equals. There is also a question on PSAPs and on the date of application.
Yes, from Michael Bednarski.
Okay. There are two concepts. First, the entry to force of the regulation, which will indeed be 20 days after the publication. So hopefully more or less early May, because if we have only 2 months and no reaction from Parliament and Council, it will be the 6th of April. After maybe we need a week or or 10 days maybe for publication, and after 20 days. So let's say early May, it enters into force. But it doesn't mean that it's applicable, because we have a deadline for application, which is 1st of January 2026, as regard already deployed PSAPs. And I think there are PSAPs covering the whole territory. We have a sentence in Article 2 which says it shall apply to new infrastructure from the date of entry into force. But I don't know if there are any member states who intend to create new PSAP infrastructure. If this is the case, yes, but as they already cover the whole territory with the existing PSAPs, we understand that it's not really the case. So anyway, for the current PSAPs, the current infrastructure, which is now deployed since 6-7 years, the date for application is 1st of January 2026. So we are more or less, because we knew the content of this delegated act since, we know it since at least 6 months. There was more than 2 years of lead time for this upgrade.
Thank you, Gilles. We see here another question from Angelo about member states have a working circuit switch network while there are cars with circuit switch eCall.
Well, I don't think that we have on the call anybody from DG Connect who is dealing with the networks aspect. But, well, I must say that we are looking into all the possibilities. What are all the options feasible, possible to maintain if this is, of course, possible to maintain one 2G network per member state. But of course, it's not up to us because this is a free market and there are no legislative legal grounds on which to require member state or mobile network operator to do anything like this. But we have a dialogue and if this can be somehow on voluntary basis agreed, of course it will help, but we cannot say that this will happen. And of course, for how long? It cannot be forever because technologies are moving and everything needs to move.
And we have received some questions before for when the participants were registering, and one of them I will just add it to the chat. It was when will the first IMS voice over LTE eCall vehicle arrive on the market? Do you have any
Again, I would say we need to distinguish between vehicles equipped with third-party service, because I would presume that we already have such vehicles on the market, but they are not the ones which are regulated. They are not fitted with that ecosystem that is regulated under the eco regulation. So provided that we are changing now the standards and the requirements and we are giving some time, it would be up to the manufacturer when they would be ready to place such vehicles on the market. But it is possible already in the course of 2026 to witness such, but definitely in 2027 they have to be on the market, because otherwise the systems will not be approved.
Okay, thank you.
If I may just ask you, I saw a following question from Michael Bednarski. on this existing PSAP infrastructure. That's exactly why we have this lead time until 1st of January 2026. We know that PSAP need time to upgrade their systems. So it takes time. You need some time public procurement, and but of course we hope that if between now and the 1st of January 2026 there is an upgrade, you already address as soon as possible the upgrade towards packet switch communication. And if it's possible to do it in 3 months, don't wait, or 6 or 9 months, don't wait until the 1st of January 2026. But please keep also in mind that you still need to support the circuit switched eCall as long as there is at least one 2G or one 3G network in operation in your country. Sorry, I hijacked a bit the Q&A session.
There's a related question there from Christophe Nguyen. I hope I pronounced your surname correct there. I think it relates a little bit to that, and probably a timing issue as well. But I understand it as if you what is the impact regarding the end user owning an old eCall system? No, sorry, that's yes, an old eCall system. May the end user ask the vehicle constructor for updating his eCall system in order to have it working in 4G, 5G?
Well, with the risk of being a little bit provocative, I will ask also whether if your iPhone is too old or mobile phone is too old and it's not working with all applications that you want, are you asking also the designer and the manufacturer to upgrade it to the newest standards? But this is on the provocative side, and of course the question has many aspects to be taken into account, and we don't have a bulletproof golden solution for the moment for that. Indeed, it depends on many factors. Indeed, when exactly the networks will be switched off, because what we are hearing now from mobile network operators is that perhaps this process is not going to happen next 1 or 2 years as we were worried at the beginning, but most probably somewhere mostly at 29, close to 2030. Then secondly, we took these measures now with DigiMove to start the process in order to stop the things deteriorating. And in the meantime, to have a little bit more time to reflect and to discuss with all the stakeholders involved what would be the possible solutions. And I see also the question whether it would be possible, if you want as a user to have an upgrade. First, you have to ask whether it is possible in your vehicle to have at all such an upgrade, because we are told by the industry that not all vehicle types, and in particular some vehicle models that are older, like somewhere from 2018, might have platforms that would not allow for at all upgrading the ecosystem. It will require taking out the old system and putting a new one. And again, it's not very sure whether the electric circuits will be suitable enough to accommodate the system and that it will work. So of course, if suppliers and manufacturers have the readiness to develop those systems sufficiently in time, and if those are suitable for the models on voluntary basis, manufacturers will be able to bring their vehicle to a workshop and to request the upgrade or the replacement. But then the question is, who pays for that? And this question is somehow not answered, because we cannot do it via the legislation and request neither the manufacturers to pay for this, nor the mobile network operators, no others. I mean, on voluntary basis, everything is possible to the extent to which technical solutions are available. And we would like to focus more in the next years on the technical solutions. So what aftermarket solutions would be possible to be developed? And we are in collaboration with the Joint Research Center, who is going to do some research for us on this part. But I think we have to focus on what can be done, rather than to make sure that every and each vehicle will be fitted with new systems, because that might not be feasible. And of course, it might be that with the course of time, some of the vehicles of this legacy fleet will not be anymore in the fleet. They might be exported to third markets, or they might be coming to the end of their life cycle and be scrapped. So there are different aspects to be taken into account, and there is no one solution for the moment.
If I may just complement also, just on reaction to some comments that some countries will switch off 2G and 3G very soon. Indeed, and we have 2 member states in which the closure of 2G and 3G should happen end of 2025. It's Sweden and the Netherlands. That's what we know. All the others, it's more, the target is more far away, let's say. It's between 28 and 2030, 2031. So we know it's also 2 member states, Sweden and Netherlands, which have rather good safety records. So they may consider this issue less important. But yes, it's also a question of legislative tool. We don't have any tool in the EU, and speaking under the control of my absent colleague from DG Connect, we don't have a legislative tool to impose any keeping one of these networks in a member state. It's in the hands of the member state to do it or not. And some member states start thinking about that, or already have some license agreement where they ask mobile network operators to keep 2G or 3G until a certain date. We see also one member state thinking about going even beyond that, thinking about keeping only one 2G network, one slice of 2G. But this poses also some competition issues. So the reflection is there, but indeed, you're right, for Sweden and Netherlands, the deadline is very near. It's not only an issue for eCall, of course, the cost of a vehicle cannot be compared with a mobile phone, but you have also some important use cases, some users, let's say, such as alarm systems, such as ATMs, which use 2G at least as backup. And also millions and millions of energy smart meters. All these are not regulated, but they represent also a very high cost to replace them. For most of the member states, it can be done in until 2030. You have time to do it in a kind of natural replacement of devices. But for these 2 member states that I mentioned earlier, the deadline is very near. And so when we discuss with the National Regulatory Authority for Telecom, they acknowledge that. Now, I guess there are some discussions within member states, also with the ministries in charge of safety, of road safety, and they will take the decision in its their responsibility, to be very frank. And maybe I'm a bit provocative as well here. Yes, indeed, for Norway as well. Sorry, I mentioned only the 2 member states, but Norway is also an important part of the EENA.
Thank you. I think we are getting to the end of the webinar. So, well, thank you all for your participation today. A special thanks to our speakers, Elitsa and Gilles, for your presentations and for these very interesting Q&A sessions. And we hope you found the session valuable and look forward to seeing you in future webinars. And let's close the webinar. I wish you will have all a great afternoon. Thank you again.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.